Welcome everybody to today's presentation on our trends in professional sports. My name is Rob Abramowitz, partner at Armanino in our business management group located in Los Angeles, California. Appreciate you spending some time with me today to go over the fascinating sports landscape. As you all know, sports, technology, these things are moving incredibly fast. Things are changing quickly. Ways of maximizing your opportunity as an athlete or as a professional in the sports industry is rapidly changing. New opportunities presenting themselves every day. And so what we want to talk about today is just ways of thinking about these opportunities, understanding high level what they are, and also making sure that you're approaching them in a really business mindset approach. And I think that's really where a partner like Armanino could be a valuable collaborator with you as you move forward in the sports world. Armanino, our goal is to really help people and companies create transformations and accomplish those transformations. And athlete in particular is really a great example of someone going through very quick transformations in their life at a young age, opportunity to maximize their personal wealth, and then planning for the long term, all very important parts of accomplishing those transformations and life goals. As mentioned, my name is Robert Abramowitz, partner in business management. And we're going to talk about a couple things today. We're going to talk about name, image, and likeness, women's sports, what's going on with streaming, the intersection of sports and technology, ESG, and then we're going to finish up talking about mental health. So the most fascinating thing to me right now in sports is what's happening with name, image, and likeness, especially as it relates to collegiate athletes. And I like to call them professional collegiate athletes. And right now is a really interesting time with the NCAA men's basketball sort of free agent portal and athletes transferring schools, maximizing their name, image, and likeness. And it really appears to be a less controlled free agency like the NBA, but without the salary caps and without the different timing rules and regulations that the NBA has. So much more of a Wild West situation, and you're seeing players secure at least reported name, image, and likeness deals for high six figures, and oftentimes it's really coming together by not just the schools themselves, but different coalitions that are formed by fans and alumni and donors partnering with the schools, and really has become an environment unlike anything I imagined when NIL first came on the scene about a year ago, or maybe it's been 2 years now, but it's just been, what I thought of as, hey, this is going to be an opportunity for people to earn some money for doing events, signing autographs, social media posting, representing different companies, being a spokesperson, seems, at least on the surface, to have transpired into something much more like a pay-for-play, a salary type of situation, and a year-to-year free agency. That combined with the transfer rules as we exit the COVID situation, where players were given additional years to play, they were given more freedom to transfer without sitting out. It's really created this just frenzy of movement, and is really extremely interesting from a fan's perspective, but from an athlete player's perspective, just creates more and more opportunity to maximize the situation you're in on a year-to-year basis. So I think in the past, players picked a school and they were somewhat stuck there, and they had one opportunity to transfer, had to sit out a year. But now it's much more chasing the opportunities, and really much more like what coaches have always been able to do, right? Go where the best opportunity is. And so it's definitely opened up to the athlete and created a ton of opportunity. With that opportunity, and we're not going to get into this too deep in today's presentation, but a lot of responsibility as an athlete earning money for your name, image, and likeness. Are you operating through an entity, an S Corp or an LLC? Are you properly keeping track of your income and expenses, filing taxes in the correct jurisdictions, different states that you might be earning money in? Are you making sure you're properly insured and protected, both from a professional liability standpoint and from the perspective of you're earning money and you might be accumulating assets and putting yourself at risk? So these are all really important things that you need to think about as you're earning money. And really, you got to have the mindset of you are a business and you need to operate with the same business mindset that a company would have. Lastly, in the same area that I find really interesting is the conference realignment. You've all heard by now, USC, UCLA leading the Pac-12, joining the Big Ten, lots of money at stake for schools. Excuse me. That money obviously adds to the school's athletic budget, which further fuels the NIL possibilities that those schools are able to offer. And so I think there's going to continue to be movement among schools to align themselves with the conferences that present them the best opportunities to have the most exposure for their athletes and provide the most benefits for their athletes. And that's going to be something to continue to keep an eye on. That takes me into women's sports, especially, again, talking about NCAA. And we just wrapped up a couple months ago the NCAA tournament, and we saw record numbers for the women's national tournament. Numbers extremely growing year over year, lots of interest in women's sports. And I think what's also really interesting with the women athletes is the social media presence that they have and their ability to convert that into NIL opportunities. If you look at the two teams that were in the finals in the championship game, LSU and Iowa, you see a couple of great examples, especially on LSU, where you have a couple of players, and I'm sorry, their names are escaping me at the moment, but they have a couple million followers on social media, and they're already, while in college, using that leverage to have music careers on the side or do spokesman opportunities with different companies, and are really setting themselves up in a situation where they're actually making more of an income than some professional WNBA players make. So it's a very, very interesting time in women's sports to maximize the opportunity. And again, I think especially with the women athletes, their ability to create a strong social media presence and be a brand that companies want to really work with and align themselves with. You're seeing that rise tremendously. National Women's Soccer League, seeing a ton of growth in there as well. New teams being added. I think I just read recently that 2 more teams are going to be added. You see the success of some of the newer teams like San Diego and the Los Angeles Angel Cities team. A lot of celebrity investors that are interested. And the interesting thing about these women's leagues, National Women's Soccer League, the WNBA to a lesser extent because it's been around longer and more established, but if you look at the sports landscape leagues, it's one of the newer leagues, and it presents an opportunity with the lowest barrier of entry for an investor. And that's why you're seeing a lot of investors, whether it's athletes themselves, entertainers, and especially women athletes that have used their leverage. Serena Williams, for example, they're putting that investment back into women's sports, and you're seeing the National Women's Soccer League represent a key opportunity for ownership in a sports league, because the bar for entry is so much lower than an NBA team or NFL team or NHL team, where you're talking about $1 billion plus valuations. National Women's Soccer League is 100 million to a couple hundred million, and so much easier to obtain ownership. And leading into why is that attractive is the media deals, right? A lot of money going into these leagues, especially women's sports leagues. They're up for renegotiation. WNBA is going to be reopening or renewing their media rights deals, and so I think you're going to see record number deal for them. And as the National Women's Soccer League continues to grow, just more and more opportunity for women's athletes to continue to increase their earnings, their exposure, more games on prime networks in prime time, more exposure, more social media presence. All of that continues to create more NIL opportunities for women athletes. So just tremendous growth in that area. As mentioned, new deals coming. Streaming is continuing to create a footprint in live sports. The MLS signed an exclusive deal with Apple TV. NFL Sunday Ticket, an exclusive deal with Google. We already had NFL Thursday on Amazon. So you're just seeing more and more growth with streaming. And the Pac-12 now consists of 10 members, with USC and UCLA leaving. We'll see where they're able to get their next deal, but it sounds like streaming could be a viable option for them as well. And then a ton of interest in the non-live sports. Netflix with really 3 huge series that they've released: Drive to Survive, Breakpoint, and the golf one. I'm blanking on the name of it, but these have been great ways to capture the athlete and present them to the public in a non-live format. And again, creating more and more opportunity for athletes to capitalize on their name, image, and likeness, even when it's not in a live a live sports setting or on their own social media. They're able to continue to have exposure by these new forms of media and content that are coming out, and Netflix with a couple of great examples. Technology in sports always been an interesting intersection, and we're seeing that more and more with the type of data, wearables, and also the fan experience. So you see predictive analytics happening more and more. It all started with Moneyball and baseball years and years ago, and now you see organizations almost entirely basing their personnel decisions on the analytics. You see it in college sports, again, the men's basketball tournament, and different types of indexes, whether it's KenPom or BPI or the net, and a lot of analytics going into deciding how are these teams ranked, who are the best players, what do the matchups look like. A lot of that also being driven by the continued growth in the betting industry, where a lot of this data and analytics can be leveraged into making wagers. So that's been a part of it as well. But also a part of the technology is, how as an athlete are you using that to add to your game? How are you using that to grow? A lot of different types of wearable technology and software that provide real-time feedback, whether you're training or even in a live game, to give information on how's the player playing, how's their stamina. So just a lot of information that both coaches, organizations, and the player themselves can use to really play at the highest level. And you're also seeing that technology for the non-professional athlete, right? At-home workouts, Tonal, Peloton, all these different types of workouts that are incorporating live data from wearable technologies into a software and hardware environment where you're getting real-time feedback. And it's just an interesting environment that even a non-professional athlete is able to leverage this technology. ESG, environmental social governance, this has been a really growing area in general in the corporate world, where companies are much more aware of the impact they're having in these three areas. And in sports, it's no different. The NBA has been doing this for years, as have other leagues, with community service, making a social impact and giving back to communities. But now you're also seeing stadiums and facilities looking at what kind of impact are they making on the environment? Can they lower their carbon footprint? So you're seeing a lot of new stadiums have a focus on having a zero emissions, zero carbon footprint, and really creating a sustainable way for fans and players to enjoy those amazing facilities. And I think you're going to see that with every new stadium that comes out. That's going to be a focus, as it is a focus across the corporate world in general. And so no different in sports. And it also creates a lot of opportunity for athletes who are aligned with these companies, right? So if you're an athlete and you have a big social media presence and you're passionate about, one of these ESG areas, you're going to be attractive for a corporate organization that aligns with that and is looking to promote that. And so there's going to be a natural synergy between the athlete and the company to promote that ESG that the company is really spending a lot of money on investing in, and they want to promote that, make sure that their customers are aware of their focus and their passion towards whatever that ESG goal is. Lastly, mental health, also something that's been on top of mind, especially since COVID and the social and psychological impacts that that's had on people. And you're seeing leagues, NCAA, for example, coming out with more formal education regarding helping athletes manage their mental health. You see situations with Simone Biles and the Olympics and her backing out due to mental health. And you've seen it with Kyrie Irving in the NBA. And you're just seeing more and more openness to talk about mental health. And again, while this is an important for someone's own health, the other aspect to the mental health awareness is the opportunity it creates for an athlete that might be aligned with this. You see apps for meditation, right? And you have athlete sponsors of those apps. And so the more that you as an athlete are open about your mental health and you're showing that on social media, you're going to attract companies and organizations that align with that message. And so all these things happening in sports, while from a fan's perspective create a lot of great content and a new way of viewing and consuming sports, for the athlete or a professional in the athletic sports industry, lots of opportunity for revenue creation, lots of opportunity for collaboration, and it's just a great time to be in the professional sports industry. I appreciate you all for watching. A couple of things not listed that I find extremely interesting is pickleball. We've heard a lot about pickleball. That keeps growing. It'll be interesting to see if that'll be a fad or something that maintains. I personally think it's here to stay. I've been hearing about pickleball for over 12 years now. My parents live in Florida, have been playing pickleball, like I said, for over a decade. It's been on every corner out there and is super popular, and you're seeing that trickle across the country, across the world, across gender, across generations. and it's really become a universal sport that everyone can connect on. You see athletes and celebrities and different venture funds putting money into pickleball. But that'll be a new way of generating, economic growth in the sports industry. So it's going to be a really, really interesting time with the growth of pickleball, in addition to all these other things. So once again, I appreciate you all for spending some time with me today. Any questions, please reach out to us at Armanino. We're here to help. We're here to help you grow as both an organization and as an individual professional. Once again, thank you and have a great rest of your day.